Up next is a topic I'm always very excited about. It's also always the first tough decision I have to make when playing a new farming simulator. Which map do I play on? Farming Simulator 22 will come with 3 beautiful maps in total. The popular Alpine map Erlengrad is making its return, and together with the 2 new detail-oriented environments, it will not be easy to decide where to begin. Today, we will introduce you to one of the new maps. We travel to the Midwest in the United States, and somewhere there, we will find our fictional town called Elm Creek. The person who currently spends the most time in Elm Creek is Florian Busse, and he will tell you now what farmers will find there. Isn't that right, Florian?
Ja, natürlich. Ich habe unzählige Stunden.
I work as a senior level designer at Giants, and I'm responsible for the visual and structural look of the US map for FS22. Needless to say, I have spent countless hours in Elm Creek. At Giant Software, we have specialists in 3D modeling, texturing, effects, audio, and more. Not to mention the game designers and programmers who then implement their vision in the game. Creating a map for Farming Simulator is a team effort. As Martin mentioned, Elm Creek is inspired by the American Midwest. We did some in-depth research when creating this map. In general, the US Midwest has a completely flat landscape, so it was difficult to find a region suitable for 2 × 2 kilometers. Just providing a flat rectangle would not be enough for us. So first we had to take a closer look at the landscape. After a while, we understood the diversity of the terrain. We also found hilly areas, rivers, and streams that cut deep notches into the landscape. Eventually, we created a combination of these terrain features within the authentic flat landscape. The most obvious difference compared to Ravenport in FS19, we have a flat landscape with no coastline. Instead, for example, Elm Creek has a hidden canyon with a cave, which contains rocks that we embedded seamlessly into the landscape. In the flat area, we also work with slight increases and decreases in elevation. So you can drive under our railroad line, which goes straight through the land with its underpasses. And you can even drive over it when you come across the railroad bridge. Elm Creek features several bridges due to various rivers and streams that run throughout the map. However, the rivers are not deep and can also easily be crossed with a vehicle, so you won't feel restricted in your movement. This gives us the opportunity to add the necessary visual dynamics to the map, which should give it a subtle attraction through constant variation, rather than on a 2 × 2 kilometer flat plain, where interest is quickly lost. The focus of Elm Creek is on vast areas of farmland. There is no real town this time. We're actually more on the edges of town. There's a gas station, various small businesses, residential areas, and even a few slices of Americana, with a baseball stadium and bowling center. Dealing with a large draw distance presents a challenge to us. We have to make sure that buildings can be easily hidden in the distance. We need to reduce the number of objects to a minimum in order to be able to offer you a good frame rate, so that you can also play the game as smoothly as possible. Many buildings are visible over a long distance, so we can't just fade them out. With medium distance, we have the same problem with all objects and props that need a high distance visibility. This increases the number of generally visible objects enormously. We try to break the lines of sight with trees to allow clipping distances, that is, the imperceptible fade out of so many objects. There are other ways to reduce the amount of visual objects. If you just put trees in the center or use trees to hide stuff, it also increases the number of transparent areas, because the branches and leaves of the trees are created by so-called alpha planes. That is, they are not 3D modeled, but 2D drawings with transparent backgrounds.
eine hohe Renderzeit für diese Objekte. Dazu haben diese Bäume
They also have quite a few polygons. After all, we want to present you with decent vegetation. That's the design challenge.
die gestalterische Herausforderung. Man möchte wundervolle Grafiken.
We want to provide you a game that features great graphics, but also smooth performance.
Gibt es ein technisches
To solve this, there are various technical remedies, and each remedy has its own side effects.
das richtige Heilmittel anzuwenden und die
The art is now to apply the right remedy and to balance side effects in a way that we get a stable and high frame rate. Our programmers and technical artists do a fantastic job and guarantee you a smooth experience.
Im Gegensatz
In contrast to the farm layout of FS19, we decided to place the farm in the middle of the map so that the player can spread out to all sides and have all the possibilities to create their own unique farm.
individuelles Farmspiel zu gestalten. Dazu haben wir die Anzahl der zusätzlichen
To
Dekorationen
do this, we reduced the number of additional decorative buildings in the farm area and decided to make the buildings open and accessible.
Auf der einen Seite mehr Platz für eure eigenen Gebäude.
This way, you have more space for your own buildings without those that you don't need getting in your way.
So hat jetzt zum Beispiel die Garage
Both the garage and barn interiors feature multiple levels. You can drive into the buildings and store your vehicles there. The barn can also be used as a storage room for pallets, big bags, or other items you need for farm operations. Forklifts and other small vehicles will fit through most of the doors.
sicher die
The fields may seem small at the beginning of your career on Elm Creek and FS22, but remember, in the beginning, players don't have much money, and the bigger the field, the higher the costs.
Insgesamt gibt es
In total, there are 81 predefined fields on Elm Creek, more than we've had before, but we still have the larger fields typical for the region.
großen Felder auch, die typische Landschaft in den USA.
Experienced players with the appropriate equipment will find these larger fields to be a great addition to their farming business.
Setzt natürlich voraus,
And as always, you will have the ability to merge or create fields at your own discretion.
wirklich Felder miteinander zu kombinieren und zusammenzulegen. Und so könnt ihr aus kleineren Feldern größere Felder machen.
Use a plow with Create Fields enabled and use your imagination to create your own unique landscape in Elm Creek.
Wenn ihr euch die Karte ansieht,
If you look at the map, you will notice that many various field shapes exist. Some have rounded off edges, some are shaped completely differently. This is to provide a more authentic alignment with the infrastructure and a believable embedding.
Struktur und eine glaubwürdige
As in the Alpine map, we offer undefined areas with complete organic shapes.
Flächen mit
The
vollständig
player has to discover them on their own, as they are not predefined and do not have a number on the minimap.
Minimap haben. Die Tutorialfelder am Anfang
The tutorial fields at the beginning are rectangular, so each player has the opportunity to save time and enjoy a comfortable start in the game.
euch entscheidet, mehr Zeit für das Spiel
When you decide to invest more time in the game, the challenge increases.
effizienter werden in eurem Game.
You'll have to be more efficient and do some additional things.
Ihr müsst Bäume zusammenschneiden,
You'll have to cut trees,
schaffen müsst Felder.
combine fields,
Und so könnt
and
ihr
adjust the field shape so that the helpers are of good help to you.
euch eine gute Hilfe sein. Ihr seid derjenige, der bestimmt, was er macht und wo er es macht. Ihr habt definiert, wie die
You
Feldform.
determine the best way for your farm to be efficient.
Wenn ihr die Karte
If you explore the map and go to its corners, you will see farms that you can use in multiplayer mode.
gebaut sind. Und diese Farmen könnt ihr im Mehrspielermodus verwenden. Diese Bereiche finden sich eben in den Ecken. Sie haben das gleiche
They have the same layout concept as the starter farm, with small fields in close proximity.
Felder bieten ein ideales Startgebiet.
The surrounding fields make them an ideal starting area with opportunities to expand later.
Finden sich noch Gebäude, die aber nur zur Illustration für den Singleplayer.
You can, of course, build your own farms any way you wish, on any land that you own on the map.
Generell wollen wir euch
We wanted to achieve more complexity in the architecture in FS22, more details and layers, so that everything becomes more believable and authentic. Think about the vehicles that are also getting more detailed. Both of those things have to grow together now. The world has to become more detailed, just like the vehicles.
Jetzt genug gefachsimpelt.
That's enough shop talk. Now, I'd like to show you some very special places in Elm Creek that are my personal favorites.
Thank you, Florian. I'm tempted to start my Farming Simulator 22 on Elm Creek now. That said, we still have to show you the other new map, and, well, we'll save it for later. We want to show you a lot at Farmcon, but we also want to keep some gems for the future. Something we did already announce in our very first announcement for Farming Simulator 22 were the seasonal changes. As much as it might be nice to have an endless summer like before, having alternating seasons and crop calendars adds more realism. But also complexity. We've thought about this a lot. How do we edit but also keep it fun for players who don't want to be told when they can or cannot do something? We think that we found a good solution, which will enhance the gameplay for everyone. Jos, your turn.
Thanks Martin for having me. I'm Jos and I'm gameplay developer at Giants. I'll tell you something about the seasonal cycles in Farming Simulator 22. The seasonal cycles in Farming Simulator 22 bring a whole new level of gameplay. First, we have spring. In spring, the trees have vibrant colors and the brand new year starts. Then we have summer, where the plants mature and the trees darken. Afterwards, we get autumn with its darker colors and red and brown trees, depending on the tree type. And in the end, we have winter, where all the leaves fall from the trees and you get snow. A year is divided into 12 months. Every month is one day in the game. But you can still control how fast a day passes. This way, season can range from half an hour of game time up to a whole weekend. The biggest change in gameplay that comes with the seasonal cycles is the new crop calendar. The crop calendar decides whether you can plant barley or must stay with cotton. For example, the barley is a winter barley in our game, so you can only plant it in the autumn and it will grow until ripe summer. This way, throughout the year you have to decide whether you can plant something or you cannot. This adds a whole new level of gameplay and mechanics to the crop system. But there is more. Because of the varying times of harvest for each crop, you also get varying prices during the year. This way, it is not the best method to sell directly after harvesting. You should store your product and sell it the year after to get better prices. In the winter, we have snow, which you can remove with the snowplows to keep your yard clean. Also, grass does not grow in the winter, so if you have animals, you have to make sure you get enough food for them before the winter starts. If you don't like removing snow in the winter, or you don't have animals, you can choose to skip a whole day ahead, or even more than one day, to keep the pace to your game. There have been a lot of challenges in implementing this feature into the base game. We knew from the Seasons mod that this feature would be very popular, but a lot of people, they prefer freedom of planting whenever or harvesting whenever they want. That's why we wanted to find a middle ground that worked for every player in a wide player base. We also made changes to the game engine to add better performance to our new growth system. Adding toggles to our game adds complexity due to the possible scenarios that we have to test and balance. We also added new changes to our game engine to add more performant growth and more reliable growth. We also updated our maps to take full advantage of the new changes with the seasons. We added snowmen, we added snow on roofs, and we added many items that depend on the current season. We hope you have fun with our new snowman. Mod makers can also adjust their mods to the new system. Map makers, for example, can add objects to the game that are only visible in the summer, for example a barbecue. They can also define exactly where snow falls and does not fall, and when the lights turn on and off. With the new environment tab in the editor, it is also possible to change the light intensity based on the season. With the new environment tab, it is also possible to control when objects are visible and are not visible, much easier than before. On top of all this, map makers can define where their map is located in the world. They can do this by adjusting the location in the world and adding a new weather and crop calendar. This way, you can define that in the south of the world, your sugarcane grows much faster than in the north. It is also possible to add new integrations into the seasonal cycles for your mods. And we hope to see a lot of new gameplay features being added based on the time of the year. I'm interested to hear what you think about these new features, and if you have questions, you can ask them in the upcoming Q&A. Back to Farmcon.
Gotta say, I like summer, but I'm looking forward to snow in Farming Simulator 22. If you'd like to have a chat with Jos and other Giants folks, then join our Discord server. where we will be available during and after the show. On there, you will also find discussions about the Farming Simulator League. In the FSL, teamwork, coordination, discipline and precision are needed to take home the victory when the teams fight for a prize pool of 250,000 euros in the current Season 3. I bet we see some really exciting matches in the next tournament, which will take place this weekend. Our next ambassador is actually a part of Bednar's FSL team. Let me introduce you to Jose from Czech Republic.
Zdravíme Farmcon! Jmenuji se Jose, jsem streamer a youtuber. Zároveň jsem součástí týmu FSL Bednar. Giant mi dal pár minut, abych vám řekl pár slov. Tímto jim chci poděkovat, že mi dali možnost vytvořit českou komunitu, která je úžasná. A pomalu se zapojuje do vytváření módů pro Farming Simulator. Jsem rád, že mě komunita v tomto podporuje. Bez vás by to nebylo ono. A nakonec chci poděkovat veškeré komunitě Farming Simulator, že vůbec existuje. A jsem rád, že jsem její součástí. Takže se mějte krásně. Ahoj!
Coordination and precision. Precision and farming. Precision farming! This transition was almost too easy. Back in 2020, we've announced our partnership with EIT Food and John Deere to develop a precision farming mod together. Your feedback was astonishing, and we are glad to say that we will continue working on it, and we're happy to announce precision farming will return in Farming Simulator 22. But for those of you who are perhaps unfamiliar with precision farming and what it adds to Farming Simulator, let's start with a quick summary of the project.
To start taking samples of your soil, you'll need two things: the John Deere Gainer and the Iceria Scout. With the sampler, we can find out on which types of soil your crops are growing on. Let's take a look at the new Precision Farming tab in the menu. There are 4 different kinds of soil: loamy sand, sandy loam, loam, and silty clay, each offering a different level of yield potential. They will become visualized on the map after you've taken and analyzed the samples. The next step is to find out about your soil before you begin preparing the field. Samples are collected in the vessels at the bottom of the unit. Let's switch to the soil map and have a look at the visual impact of taking samples with a 25-meter radius. You can see the radius on the minimap as well. This is the only indication for areas with samples